Good evening. Tonight we're going to be talking about singles and dating and the dating process and what's going on, and give you some suggestions from WOG standpoint of how this could go that would result in a much more successful relationship in the end. Because as you know, if there's a lot of single people here, it's kind of like we go from relationship to relationship to relationship to relationship. And if we do end up getting engaged or married, what's the chances of it really succeeding? And it's about a 50% chance right now, isn't it? And so, as I was getting ready to teach this tonight, I put a lot of thought into it. If I had to do this all over again, how would I do it? If I was single, what questions would I be asking right up front? What would I do differently than what I did? Okay? Because even when Lorjan and I, when we got married, we weren't even Christians, and I mean it went downhill really, really quick. Our marriage was not good at all, and when we got saved, it got worse because then we had weapons to use against each other. We used the Bible to fight and said, tell each other how wrong we were. But in a Christian environment, we need some type of guideline to go by to increase the chances of you being with the right person and increase the chances of success, okay? Now, I'm not saying this is the only way. This is just my thoughts on how, if I had to do this over again. Now, if someone wanted to date me, the first question I would ask is, why? I mean, why do you want to date me? I mean, what really is the purpose of dating? Anybody? What's the purpose of dating? To end up in marriage. It's the first step towards marriage, isn't it? So obviously then I should not be dating anyone that I wouldn't want to get married to. Okay? So if I see someone and they're asking to date me and I look at them and I know this is not somebody I want to be married to, why in the world would I go out with them? Because if you do start dating people that you would not want to be married to, your heart may overcome your logic. And now you become emotionally attached to someone that you wouldn't want to be married to. Now we're going down the wrong road, aren't we? So I think the first rule would be to ask this person, why do you want to date me? And see what the answer is. Now, what do you think the answer should be? To see if you want to marry me? And that's really the right answer, isn't it? But that's kind of a bold thing, isn't it? Isn't it bold? But what if you don't ask that question? What if they say, well, I just like to be around you. I just want to hang out with you. Well, I don't want to hang out with you if it's not going to go somewhere. What is your intent in asking me out? Are you looking for a wife? No. Well, then you're off my list. If you're not looking for a wife or you're not looking for a husband, you're off my list. I'm looking for someone for a long-term relationship, not to go out and just have fun with, not someone just to keep me from being lonely. You see? So I think that we need to be bold right up front. And you're going to see that some of the questions I'm going to have are very bold questions. Because I'm kind of a bold kind of a guy, if you get to know me. I don't mind asking hard questions, okay? Because it's when we don't ask these questions that we start getting in trouble. We're in relationships with people that we should not be in relationship with, okay? So the first question should be, why do you want to date me? Because I want to have a long-term relationship with. I'm looking for a wife or I'm looking for a husband, okay? Now, also, the answer should be to see if Jesus is first in their life. Because if you're a Christian, you don't want to be dating someone that Christ is not first in their life, especially if he's first in your life, which he should be. Because if he's not first in their life, this is going to go down a slippery slope, isn't it? Okay, you're going to start having all kind of problems. You're going to start having differences in moral standards. Okay, to determine if they would bring up the children in the ways of the Lord. Do you want to have children? Okay, if you don't have children and I do, why would you date? So these are questions I would ask right up front to determine if you're like-minded in many areas, okay? To determine if you have the same moral standards in life. Now, I would ask, what is it that attracted you to me? Why did you even come over and ask me? There could be a lot of answers given there, couldn't there? Okay? But you want to see what the answer is. Well, I really have been watching you. And I've been watching, your relationship with Christ. I mean, now we're starting into the right answers, aren't we? Not because you're hot, Not because I want to hang out with you. Not because I think we can have a good time. Well, you could do that with just about anybody. And a question I would ask them, do you put Christ first in your life? If the answer yes is, would you tell me what do you do? How do you put him first in your life? Can you give me some examples? I'd want to know. Have you, in your past relationships, been willing to compromise your relationship with Christ by having premarital sex? That's pretty bold, isn't it? Don't you want to know the answer to that? Well, how do you get the answer to that unless you ask or find out in the back seat? I mean, there's one way to find out, isn't there? I would want to know. Have you compromised your moral values in the past? Because if they have, what's the likelihood of them doing it with you? Pretty great, aren't they? Okay? In your opinion, why are you not with the last person you had a long-term relationship with? Why aren't you with them anymore? What happened? What caused the breakup? Why are you still not with that person? Because whatever that issue is probably going to come into this relationship too, isn't it? Now here's the big question. Would you give me permission to contact that last person that you were in a relationship with? Huh? Huh? What if they say, absolutely? What if they say, absolutely not? Well, there's something to be hidden here, isn't there? Don't you want to know who you're going to be with right up front before you start developing an emotional relationship with them?
Next day you won't see it.
Next day you might not. That's good. If this terrifies a person, this is a person you do not want to be with. If they can't be right open with you right at the very beginning, I got nothing to hide, this is who I am. Sure, you can call them. Absolutely, no problem at all. Here's the phone number. Do you mind if I call them and let them know you're going to call? I need to give that. That's courtesy. Sure. Would you call them now? Let them know. Yeah. What do you think? What do you think about what I'm saying? Do you want to find these answers out the hard way? That's what most people do, isn't it? We get into a relationship and we start getting an emotional attachment to them, and then we start finding these things out. Then it's tough, isn't it? Why couldn't you ask these questions right up front? If they want to date you, why not ask these questions right up front? You need to know if you want to date this person or not. Do you not? Why find out the hard way? What does a monogamous relationship mean to you? Because isn't there an expectation if you're dating that it's just going to be you and that person? Isn't there an expectation of that? But they may not have that same expectation. Now we're looking for trouble again, aren't we? Oh, we're just dating, which means I can date and you can date. Okay, I just want to get it defined right up front. If you're wanting to date me, is it going to be just me that you're going to be with? Or are you going to be dating other people at the same time? Have you ever cheated in a monogamous relationship? Well, if they have, then they're probably going to do it again. If you did, how long ago was that? And can you help me understand why? Is this too deep? Nope. What are your views on pornography? Don't you want to know right up front? What are your views on it? Do you look at it? If we were dating and I asked you to give up a friend that I didn't like, would you be willing to do so if I justified it? How important are your parents to you? If your mom and dad didn't like me, would the relationship be over? Because that happens, doesn't it? Friends can get involved, and they have more loyalty to a friend than they do you. Don't you want to know up front? Don't you want to know what type of relationship they have with their parents? A lot of guys can be mommy's girls or mommy's boys, can't they? And a lot of girls can be daddy's girls. You know, and their relationship with daddy is more important than you. I'll throw you away, but I got to keep my parents. Okay? And they're grown men, grown women. But still, they haven't left yet. What kind of childhood did you have with your mother? What kind of childhood did you have with your father? Because you've learned from taking these classes that whatever issues they had with mom or dad, they're going to be transferred to you. You don't want to wait till way down the road to find out it was terrible, because that all that junk's going to get transferred to you. Okay? Do you have a lot of hurts and pains left over from your childhood? What's your current adult relationship with your mom and dad? Begins to tell a story, doesn't it? Do you have, or have you ever had, a sexual transmitted disease? Too bold? You want to find out the hard way? Some of these things can be transferred by kisses. You know that? They can be. You got to be careful. Do you know that AIDS can actually be transferred by kissing if the person is a secretor? They can. You can end up with something that you can die from these things. Do you take medications? Why would I ask that? Because if people is taking a lot of medications, that indicates they've got a lot of unresolved spiritual issues in their life, which has resulted in them needing these medications to offset their thought process, which causing them to be chemically imbalanced and having problems going on. Depression, anger, anxiety, diseases. I mean, what's going on? You see? So you want to know if they're on medications. What kind of medication? What's the medications for? How much time do you spend in Bible study weekly? What do you think is the purpose of your life? What you here for? What you going to do with your life? How are you glorifying God with it? And what are you currently doing to serve God? About 20 questions. Can you think of something else that should be added to the list?
Do you have money?
Do you have money? That's, what kind of car do you drive? You got a big house? No.
No, how they handle finance.
How do they handle finances? Yeah. Do you have a savings plan? That's good. Do you budget your money? Yeah. Do you think that any of those questions would not be appropriate? It's pretty bold, isn't it? But you know, I think I would, if I was starting a new relationship, I would let them know right up front. I got a questionnaire for you. Really. Because I don't want to be in a relationship that's going nowhere. Life's too short for you to waste your time and for me to waste my time in a relationship that could be a year down the road and it went absolutely nowhere because you don't even intend to marry me. I want up front. What's your intent being with me? You want to get married to me? You want to know more about me to see if you want to marry me? Okay. I want to know more about you too. But if that's not the intent, why are you wasting your time dating this person? If that's not the intent. Because I think that is the intent of dating, isn't it? To gather enough information about this person to see if you want to marry them. If they want to marry you, well, get it up front. Don't waste your time. Don't find out the hard way. Now, one of the things that I've always told singles when they're coming in when they're going from relationship to relationship? Do you have a profile, a mental picture that's written down somewhere of the person that you want to be with? Do you have that? And do you have things that are this thing has to be, and this is negotiable? You see? And the things that have to be that are non-negotiable, then you wouldn't consider dating someone that doesn't fit in that profile. You see? It's kind of a filter process, isn't it? So I think the first question, or the first thing in my profile would be, do we have the same religious values? Do we have the same religion? You know, there's a lot of religions that just don't mix. They don't mix at all. And when you marry a person with another faith, it can really cause a lot of problems. So I think I want to first make sure that the person has the same religious and moral values that I've got. And that probably is not going to be something that is negotiable. That's non-negotiable. Okay? And you know, we talked about in other classes how we're physically attracted to people, and then you probably want to write down physical attraction. You know, what are you physically attracted to? You see? And everyone's physically attracted to, different pictures of somebody. You know, that they got to have this color of hair, they got to have this kind of skin tone, they got to have this color of eyes. Now, some of that could be negotiable, couldn't it? Okay, but you want to have that physical attraction. It's hard to fall in love with someone that you're not physically attracted to. It's difficult. I mean, it can be done. They did it in ancient times, but it's difficult, isn't it? Race. You may not be attracted to someone of a different race. I'm not saying it is wrong or right. You just may not have that attraction. So you might be non-negotiable also, or it may be negotiable. They might have to be a certain height, a certain weight. You don't want to know if they want children or not. That may or may not be negotiable. Are they willing to wait till marriage to have sex? Do they work? They've got a job. That may not be negotiable. I do not want to date someone that doesn't work, that doesn't have an income, that's not going to support me somehow. Where they live. And again, back to the relationship with mom and dad. I don't think I'd want to be in a relationship with someone who's had a terrible childhood with the mom and dad and still do and has not worked through those issues. And last but not least, are they willing to go to premarital counseling? If they're not, that's non-negotiable. You see, I want to make sure that we've taken care of these buttons, that we've taken care of these triggers, because once the ring goes on, we know what happens. All that junk gets transferred to you. So I want to make sure that they're willing to go to premarital counseling, and not normal premarital counseling. The ones that deals with the buttons and triggers, gets rid of the junk. Okay, the stuff left over from mom and dad that you're going to take the place of. Again, there's some things here that's negotiable and some that's not. And a lot of these things are right up front of the questions that you asked. And then how they answer these, it can tell you right up front whether you want to even date this person or not, or have a second date, because the first date may be talking about all this stuff. I know I would be if I was dating someone. I want to know right up front, do I even want to ask them out again? And if they start saying, man, I can't believe you are awful personal, well, what do you got to hide? Okay. We're probably going to end the date right here. They don't want to be open. Don't want to be open. What do you got to hide? If you are who you claim to be, why do you have something to hide? In these things, in these seminars, in these classes, a lot of people are surprised. I say, I give any of you permission to ask me any question, and nothing's too personal. I got nothing to hide. You see, and I think Lord would do the same thing. Ask us anything. We got nothing to hide. Now, if I'm giving a false representation of who I am, I'm trying to impress you, I'm going to be very careful in the information that I give to you, aren't I? I'm not going to be open. I'm not going to have a full disclosure. And one of the things that I tell single people, that if you want to get married, you've got to eliminate sex from the dating process. You've got to eliminate it. Because to be quite frankly with you, there's very few people in a dating or a marriage, a pre-marriage, like we're engaged, that's having sex, that truly get married. There's very few. Now, I know some do make it there, but there's very few. Why? Because there's a bonding process that occurs. You know, when two people first meet each other, there's a physical attraction. It's a bonding process that occurs, and the ultimate in that is having sex as a husband and wife. Okay? And the bonding process starts with, you know, looking at each other. And then it goes to light touches, you know, of the hand and of the arm. And then to a slight glance of the face. If they really like you, they'll be receptive to that touch of the face. And then to light hugs, and then light kisses. To long hugs, long kisses, long embraces. And there's things being stirred inside. Okay? Which is ultimately to lead to the two becoming one through sexual intercourse, right? But if sexual intercourse is happening way up here during the dating process, and it's supposed to end up in the marriage, what reason are you going to get married? You've already bonded. You've went through the whole process. Well, there's no reason for this man to marry you. What for? He's living with you or with you just as he would be with a wife. There's no reason to go any further. And this is one of the reasons that many women in today's culture go from relationship to relationship to relationship to relationship, because they give him everything that he wants, and there's nothing to want for, and it's time to move on. You know what he's looking for? Someone special. Someone who won't give him everything until the ring is on. You see? Because if you're just one of the ones that will give him everything, you're not special. Why does he want to be with you? He's got everything that he wanted. So it's really difficult because a lot of women are in fear. If I don't give him everything, he will eventually leave me. Well, what's ironic about that, if you do give him everything, he will probably eventually leave you. Okay? You will realize that fear. So it's better to withhold that and wait for the right guy to come along. Of you singles out here, how many of you have got a spiritual profile? Got one? That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, in this process, the person is probably going to be, you're starting off being friends who are dating, right? Well, let's define who a friend is. You know, if I'm going to have a friend, first of all, we've got to have the main thing in common, and the main thing in common is that they've got Christ in their life. That's the main thing in common, isn't it? If Christ is first in my life, which is my moral guide to everything that I do in life, I want to make sure that Christ is first in their life too. Okay? So I'm not going to have a friend who doesn't have Christ first in their life, period. That's just the way it is. I'm not going to have them as a friend unless God has given me the job of being a missionary to that person, you see. But that's a limited friendship for a purpose, isn't it? But a close friend, I'm not going to have them if they don't have the same moral standards I do. And they won't if they don't have a close personal relationship with Christ. Okay? A friend is also defined as someone who will pray for me. Okay? We'll be praying for each other. We'll be praying about the relationship. A friend would be somebody who enjoys being around me. A friend would be someone that we enjoy doing things together. Someone who will be there for me when I'm down, that we can lift each other up. A friend would be someone that I enjoy having conversations with, because we have the same ideals, we have the same thoughts, the same goals in life. Someone that I may enjoy going places with, someone that I share light hugs with. But the rule here, regardless of whether it's a friend or a fiance or dating, whatever it is, that you're never, ever alone with this person in a real private setting. Because if you make that the rule, then the likelihood of this sexually going somewhere that it shouldn't diminishes greatly, doesn't it? You've always got at least a third person or another couple, or that you're always in a public setting. Okay? Again, sex in relationships without marriage is a killer of relationships. I'm not saying that they all will end up separated, but most of them do. Okay? Because not only, even if it does survive, then you get all that guilt that goes with it. You're actually angry with each other for doing what you've allowed each other to do to each other during that time. There's guilt with that. And married couples come in here that's been married for a year or two, and she's forgiven him for all that premarital sex, and he's forgiven her, because you got all that guilt that accompanies it, that you kept pushing down. But it surfaces later on. A boyfriend and a girlfriend, that's someone who's already become friends, and they're now taking it to the next level. Okay? You've already done your survey. You found that these things that are not acceptable, that's negotiable. These are the things, they met the prerequisites. Okay? So now you can become a boyfriend-girlfriend. A girlfriend, there's hugs, light kisses, holding hands, thinking about a future together, thinking about putting this person right after God, not dating others, being committed to each other, becoming exclusive. I can send this to you. You don't have to type it on. I'll send it to you if you want it. Okay? And there's no secrets. From the very beginning. If you're keeping secrets from each other, what kind of relationship with it? You can't trust someone who's keeping secrets from you as a friend or in dating, right? Now, this one can cause a gulp also. If I was going to date someone, I want to make sure that they know that they can trust me, that there's full and open disclosure. So, I would tell them, I would like for you to do the same that I'm doing, that I'm going to hand you my phone, and you can check anytime you want to. Anything. You can check my computer anytime you want to. You can check my history on the sites that I've been to. I want you to know. I want you to be accountable. That you know that I'm not looking at porn. That I'm not looking at other women. You know that I'm not contacting other women. That I'm not talking to other women. You've got full access to my computer. You've got full access to my telephone at any time. Would you want that? Doesn't that develop intimacy and trust? Tells you right up front, this is good. This person, they're real. They're who they say they are. That allows you to open your heart a lot faster to this person, doesn't it? Full and open disclosure. Look at my Facebook account. Because you want to develop that trust so it can go to the next level. Because the more that you can trust a person, the more that you can love them, and the deeper you can love them. But it's hard to love someone that you can't trust, isn't it? Who has been told you lies and who's cheated during their relationship and is withholding that phone. No. I don't want you looking at my phone. Why not? If there's nothing to hide, why would you not want them to look at it? Got a question?
No, I'm just agreeing.
Oh, you're agreeing. That's an amen back there. Okay. All right. Again, never alone in a private setting. The next step in a relationship would be getting engaged, being a fiancé. You're planning marriage. You're definitely exclusive. And I don't ask, I discourage long engagements. I do. A lot of people are surprised by that. If you have a really, really, really long engagement, you're setting yourself up for failure. Okay? But if you have done this process and you have a short engagement, you're setting yourself up for success. Because you've got this bonding process going on. And the ultimate bonding is having sex. And the longer you prolong this, the greater the likelihood of this thing's going to happen. And now you got a moral failure, and you're both guilty, and you're probably going to break up. You see? So long engagements to me are not good. I discourage long engagements. If you've went through the process and you've went through counseling and you've resolved your issues and both of you have full and open disclosure, what are you waiting on? What are you waiting on? Let's have a short engagement and get married so you have a greater likelihood of success. Does that make sense? Any questions on the dating process? No one can hear you.
How long is long?
How long is long? Are you talking about the engagement?
Yes, and how short is short?
How long is long and how short is short? Okay?
And when do you start asking these questions? And
These questions should be asked, like I said, I would ask them right up front.
okay,
Okay? First date, I got my questionnaire out. Okay? But in today's society, you know, a lot of people, you know, they're on the internet, on these dating, what do you call them? Dating.com, you know, relationship. I would have them right there. I'd have it right there. That's my filter. And what's the likelihood of someone looking at it and saying, oh, man, that's not for me? That's your filter. That's good. You don't want them calling you. You don't want them emailing you. I'd have all that right there. I want them to know right up front who I am. I don't want to be wasting my time with someone who's a not, but I'll call them anyway. I don't want that. So I want it right up front, right there. I'm going to put as much of that information there. If you have done this, if you have done this, if you've done this, don't call me. Don't waste my time. My darling.
I think that Jean is talking about the single, like everyone here is single right there.
Almost.
Almost. But you have your profile already. What are you looking for? What kind of physical features of a man and a woman? And then you go from there. And then when you get your interview, you interview them by yourself, and you get to know. And this Jean's question, I know it's I kind of raised my eyebrows too when he's teaching this. I said, this is totally unheard, you know. But it makes a lot of sense when you're ready. You know, a lot of people now in the your ages, they get married longer now, 40s, 30s. That is in your 20s, you know. And there's no enough time, especially for women to have children, you know. That's part of the question too. Do I want children?
You know, I'll tell you where these questions came from. Counseling. I've heard men sitting there and women sitting there, if I'd only known this when we were dating. I'm married now. I didn't know he had an STD. He gave me an STD. I didn't know it. We got married. He kept it a secret the whole time. But you never asked. What if she had asked? There's a very good chance he would have revealed that. You see? I didn't know that I couldn't trust him. I didn't know that he cheated on all the other girls. That's just a phone call. Have you ever cheated? Can I call the last person that you was in a long-term relationship with? You see, you start getting answers to these things, don't you? That's where I came up with this. All of these regrets from the people that's in here getting separations and divorces. I wish I'd asked this. I wish I'd asked this. I wish I had known this. Well, it's too late. Get it up front. Let that be your filter process. Now, you asked, how long is too long? How short is too short? I can't tell you that. Okay? I can't tell you that. What I'm saying is, I wouldn't make it over 6 months if I was engaged. That's for sure. To me, that's a long time, okay? Because the temptation gets greater and greater and greater to fully bond, okay? So I would make it a very short engagement. Because if they've met all the prerequisites, what are you waiting on? What are you waiting on? You have another question?
yes, I do. You know, because one of the questions that I've come to be familiar with asking is, would you be willing to resolve this issue? Just in my natural life and in counseling. What if we put that on
Yeah.
the filter?
Yeah.
If you have been married multiple times, if you have been unfaithful, if you have a problem with lying, would you be willing to resolve these issues?
Well, that's that last question. Are you willing to go to premarital counseling? You see? To get all this stuff resolved. I would not, absolutely not go for any further in a relationship with someone that's not willing to go through a counseling process and to get their junk resolved. I wouldn't do it. You're opening yourself up to heartache because it's gonna come up. When that ring goes on, it's coming up. You want that stuff resolved beforehand. You know, I got an email from someone the other day who doesn't even know us. He says, "Do you do marriages?" And my reply was, "Yes. But the condition is that you go through premarital counseling first and watch the films that we have on marriage. And if you don't do that, neither do I. I will not marry you." Why would I marry some people that's going to get a divorce? That doesn't make any sense. We've got to increase the likelihood of this lasting. Any other questions?
So as boyfriend, girlfriend,
Let's get on the tape.
As a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, you say never be alone together. I mean, you can't even come over, cook out, watch TV kind of thing. It's always got to be go out to eat or go to a movie. It's got to always be in a public setting.
Do you want this to succeed or not? I mean, it's up to you. The likelihood of if you're alone with this person, you've got a bonding process. The likelihood of you lasting to marriage decreases every time you're alone like that. Increase the percentages of this having success. Okay? Now, if you want to cook out and you're outside, fine. Because the likelihood of that happening out there in your backyard is pretty low.
or have more friends over.
Have other friends over. At least have another person over. Have another couple over. You see? Try to never ever be alone in a private setting. That decreases the success of this happening. Decreases the success of it happening. I said it wrong. It increases the percentages of this being a successful relationship. Okay? Any other questions?
No, but that includes.
Nobody can hear you.
No, but that includes. Don't pick me up. I'll meet you where we're going to go have dinner. You know.
Well, they can pick you up. You just don't invite them in.
We'll
Okay.
in the car, 'cause what happens when you sit alone
Well,
in the
here
car?
again,
Yeah.
here again, you don't sit alone in the car after they brought you back and have these long conversations, okay? When you get, you pull in the driveway, you've said, now when we get to my house, I'm not going to sit in the car and have a long conversation with you. That's a dangerous place for us. That's a setup, okay? So when we drive in the driveway, I'm going to give you a light kiss, light hug, and I'm going inside, okay? They know that right ahead of time. Yes, ma'am.
What happened to get to know you? The first, you see your profile of the man or the woman you like,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go out, you answer question, look like, how about how you get to know them longer? If you're telling them that, I don't want to have a long engagement or something.
If you have done what I taught here, you know them. They've answering all the questions. You have full access to whoever they are. You've got full access to their email, their telephone, their Facebook. You've called the last person they were in a relationship with, you see. You know about them if they've been truthful, if they have full and open disclosure. Yes.
I'll just add a comment on calling the last person.
Uh-huh.
I've And there's a lot of laughter about that every time it comes up, so I just want to add this. If the person, when you ask about their prior relationship, vilifies that other person and says that they did all sorts of horrible things, that's a huge red flag. And
Yes.
you definitely want to talk to that other person because that is a sign of somebody who is not a good person to be married to. And you need to follow up on that.
Which means they're not taking any accountability to themselves. You see? If this is a good, upstanding, moral person, and you ask what was the relationship, we were both at fault there. And they're going to take accountability of their own stuff. And that's a good point. If they start pointing the finger, it was all her, all her, all her, all him, you know what's going to happen here. Okay? They're not going to take accountability with you either. So something goes wrong, it's all your fault. Okay? Good point.
You can send those questions out.
Yeah, I'll send them out. Any other questions over here? We got more questions from the married than we did the single.
Well, I heard a lot of, they asked me too, all the single friends that I know. How would you know that it's the right one?
That's the purpose of what I've been teaching. Okay? You get all this information up front. Okay? First of all, you're physically attracted. Okay? You got all the questions answered. You got full and open disclosure. Okay? So apparently this is the right one. Okay? All right. Any other questions? Oh, we got one over here.
During this interviewing process, doesn't a role play into when you met Jesus?
Yes, it
Because I wouldn't want to be judged off what I did before I had a relationship with Christ.
Oh, yeah.
So it does come into play.
Oh, you bet. That's who you used to be. That's not who you are now. Okay? I mean, if I was judging who I used to be, you guys would be throwing eggs at me right now. I mean, I wasn't a neat guy at all. I was not marriage material, okay? But, I was an unsaved person.
Tell them how you met me.
You got a question?
I had a comment. I just had a comment about the being alone. And I agree with what you're saying to an extent. Like, you don't need to hang out too late and whatnot. But I feel like, as a Christian man, it's kind of your job to lead as well, and to prove to her that I can hang out with you in a private setting and not have, without taking your clothes off or trying or whatever. So, I mean, what do you think? I mean, I know what you're saying. I agree. Because I think in the past I've had to make a curfew for myself, 10 o'clock or so, or whenever, I need to head out. But anyway, just want to make a comment.
Yeah, I have no argument with that. And it's kind of like one's kissing too much, one's hugging too much. Well, when the kissing turns to the point of arousal, and you kiss anymore, you went too far. Okay, it's time to good night. Okay, it's time to say good night, and it's going to happen. That's part of the bonding process. There will be arousal, but if you keep kissing and hugging and touching on past that, you're in trouble. The likelihood of you making it and having a successful marriage just came to an end. Okay? Any other questions?